This is Support is Sexy, episode 349, with Pam Wasley, CEO of Cerius Executives. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I interview inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and their lessons to help you take your business and your life to the next level and create something sexy. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm so happy to have you here. You know, it just would not be the same without you. And today I'm excited because we are welcoming Pam Wasley. And Pam is a serial entrepreneur, so she's had several businesses. But for the past 12 years, she's had the company Cerius Executives. And what I love about what Pam shares, in addition to her experience of having so many businesses over the years, is that she talks about a new workforce here in the U.S., new to me, I should say. I don't know if it's new to everyone else, but interim executives. And that is what Cerius Executives focuses on. Interim executives, so people at high levels, C-suite levels, or other executives who come into a small business or company for a short period of time. Have you heard about this? Maybe you have, but it was new to me. And Pam tells us about how that works. And more importantly, how she saw a void in the market and was able to fill it with a company like Cerius Executives. And now they work with over 8,500, so that's 8,500 executives all around the world. So what else you'll learn from Pam is the importance of always looking for the void in the market that you can fill, how collaboration makes you a better leader for your team, lessons learned about choosing the right business partner, how to know when it's time to walk away from a business, Pam's top tips for independent executives, also smart and strategic ways to network. And she tells us about a brilliant hack on LinkedIn. I got to get better at LinkedIn. And this was inspirational for me. So make sure you listen out for that. And she talks about how to make the most use of your content. So many of us are creating content, but how can we make the most of it? How can we make it have longevity or be able to repurpose it in other ways? So we talk about that as well. Also, you want to make sure you listen out to the end because Pam tells us about a gift that Cerius Executives is offering. So make sure you listen out for that. It's good stuff as always. All right. So now, without further ado, Pam Wasley. So Pam, thank you so much for joining us for an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to chat with you.
Well, I'm delighted to be here and honored, actually. So thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So our first question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
I don't know how to answer that question because, when I was growing up, we didn't have these entrepreneurship classes. So I'm not sure I really understood what I was doing at the time. I just know I was bored, working for corporate America, bored, and decided there was a void in the marketplace and started my first business while I was still working for corporate America. So that's kind of how it all started. So I don't think I really knew when I fell in love with it, except for when I got finished, when I sold that business. I knew what I didn't want to do in my future, and I did have the bug then. I did want to start looking for other companies that I could grow or, start or whatever.
Now, when you were in your corporate job, what kind of position was it?
Sales. Yeah, I was I was selling carpeting and area rugs to retailers. And that was fun in itself. I mean, we came up also with all sorts of innovative ideas like, how to cut the cost of shipping. Shipping was a big deal up in the, northern Midwest, in the Minneapolis, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin area. So we devised a new shipping delivery that cut their cost in half. So, I was always trying to think of ways to help the retailers sell more carpeting and obviously make more profit. So that was kind of fun. But again, I was working like 3 days a week. Mm-hmm. Good thing my employer didn't know that at the time.
Because the other 2 days you were doing focus on your own thing.
Well, the other 2 days I was focusing on starting my own thing.
Right.
One thing I did do right, and I can see why I did it now. I wasn't sure why I did it at the time, except that I knew I didn't have enough days in my week to have a business on the side and actually run it properly. So I actually stole somebody from the large department store up there, and she came and ran the business for me. So I only worked there on weekends. And I also did the buying and some other things, but literally I was working for my corporate boss at the time, with maybe even evenings I was at the store. But other than that, I really let her run it.
So I was asking too because you mentioned that you got bored, and I was wondering if it was just because at that point you were mentally ready to make that leap into entrepreneurship, or just because you had done it for a certain amount of time. And I ask that because a lot of our listeners are either just starting their businesses or side hustling, as they say right now, or they're been in a career for many years and they're wanting to reinvent and do something else. So I'm wondering what your point was.
Well, yeah. As a kid growing up, I had a lot of energy, so I got bored easily, and so I was always in trouble with the teachers. I always had to be going out on some adventure, so I think I always had entrepreneurship in my blood. I just, again, not growing up with classes and knowing exactly what that was, I think I just fell into entrepreneurship. But, if you get the bug, I mean, the cool thing about today's world is if you look around, oh my gosh, you think that everything's been done at least once, everything. But you know what? That's not true. Especially with technology today, making things even easier, there are voids everywhere that you can fill and become a successful entrepreneur. So just keep your eyes open.
Mm-hmm. Now, where did you grow up? Did you grow up in the Midwest?
I actually grew up in New Jersey.
Oh.
And by the way, we were always in New York.
Of course.
So I had this love for Broadway shows and shopping and the Macy's Day Thanksgiving parade. I mean, I always loved all that stuff.
What part of Jersey?
It was South Jersey. Okay. So we were always at the shore on the weekends and during the summer. But again, going up that New Jersey Turnpike, it was real easy to get to New York. So, and my parents loved New York as well. So as kids, we were always taken with them.
Now, you mentioned to us that you like to get into new things as a young person with an attention span that was like, okay, I'm ready for the next thing. So what would you say? What else would you say to describe yourself as a young person growing up in Jersey?
Well, I can't say I was the most outgoing. It's interesting. I had a lot of energy. I was always adventuresome, but it wasn't necessarily an outgoing person. So I didn't have a ton of friends because I was always thinking about the next thing. I just always had, my mind was always working. So, and when it wasn't working, I was, out doing some kind of sports or, adventure, hiking or whatever. So just to kind of keep my mind and my body activated. So that's kind of how I was as a kid.
Who would you say were some of your greatest influences during that time?
I really only had one, and that was my dad. Unfortunately, he died in an early age. But, he saw me through my first venture. And shortly thereafter, he passed away. But he was absolutely my mentor. I mean, he was really good at what he did. He was one of the best business negotiators I've ever seen. And I even got to work at his plant. He was at a DuPont explosives plant running it. And so I got to go in and be the go-to person for what people needed in the office. But gosh, I learned a lot from that.
What would you say were your aspirations as you got older? Did you think you were going to go into sales, or was sales something you kind of fell into, or what did you think you were going to, quote unquote, be when you grew up?
I had no idea. All I know is that when I went through college, I was okay. I wasn't a great student. However, during my junior year, I found psychology. And oh my gosh, I nailed every single one of those classes. A's, A's, A's. Doesn't matter whether it was statistics or it didn't matter what it was. I just loved that whole topic. So when I got out of school, I had no idea what I was going to do with it. So back then there was all these, career opportunities. You'd go and companies would be at this career fair and you'd interview them. So I actually got a job right out of college, and it wasn't in sales. I was a plant supervisor at this textile company, and it was great. I mean, I learned a whole lot, and I just have to tell you the story. I can't even believe it happened, but it will never ever leave my memory. So here I was out of school. I was a supervisor on this shift, and oh my gosh, I was smart, smarter than anybody there. So I thought. Mm-hmm. So I go in there, and this particular shift had almost all women on it, and they were seasoned. They had been there a while, and they really knew their jobs. And they had particular shift was really good. So here I am thinking I'm just like the best thing since sliced bread. And boy, did they teach me a lesson, because as I'm standing up there telling them what they need to do, they're like, really? Mm-hmm. And they just really ignored me for the first 2 weeks. I'm like, whoa, this isn't working. So after the first couple of weeks, literally I thought, okay, I got to try a new tactic. So I went to them and I said, okay, I know nothing. But I need you to teach me. You guys are the experts. You have a great shift. You really run great production here. And I want you to teach me how to be as good as you are. You could have dropped a pin and heard it. The silence was deafening in that room. But finally, the one of the ladies who's very vocal on that shift came up and said, okay, follow me for the day. And literally, that's what I did. So from that moment on, we got along famously. It was great. But oh my gosh, I learned a big lesson coming out of there. Because, you get this power surge. You're smart. You're in there as the manager. I was a supervisor. Well, yeah, let's not get too carried away with those titles, because they mean nothing, especially when it comes to people today. You don't treat people like that. Just because you're in charge doesn't mean you're mean or you're controlling over them. I mean, it's really a partnership. It's not who's leading who.
Thank you for sharing that story. That's a great one. And I think a great reminder for everyone listening of, one, I always talk about, when I was working in media, full time, I should say, in media or at different companies, and people would come in and then get rid of the whole team there because they want to start fresh with everyone. When really the team that's there has so much, as a manager, I mean, but really the team that's there has so much value. And if you are willing, as you were, to say, either I don't know what I'm doing, teach me, or I'm looking to you all to be the leaders here, even if you're in charge, it does so much. It can do so much for you as a leader to have people want to work with you who have been there and who want to show you sort of the ropes, if you will. I think people not always, a lot of people make that mistakes of going in somewhere and cleaning house, unless you know that you need to clean house. But instead of going in and then establishing that relationship, and in your case, be willing to be vulnerable and say, I need you to show me how to do things. Look at what a connection that made with that team. Exactly.
Because, everybody has a strength and a weakness. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have, some of both. And it's always best to find out, what their strengths are, because just because under the last management or last person that was in charge, they didn't excel, doesn't mean under you they won't excel. Right. You just need to find out what that strength is and really leverage it. So you're absolutely correct. I see too many acquisitions today where they go in and they start eliminating people left and right. They don't even take the time to assess the people's skills, which is unfortunate because, again, depending on who's in charge, sometimes you get a lot out of a person because it's the right leader.
Right. To assess the people's skills. And I think, too, sometimes we assume that, well, those people aren't going to work with me because I'm new, as opposed to, again, in your case where you said, hey, I need your help. And then that woman was willing to step up and work with you. And I'm sure, was it a much better experience after that?
Oh, so
I'm
much
sure.
better.
I'm sure. That was a great story. So now after your, when you were in sales and then you started your first, was that the first business, the one where you had the store?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that
So,
was my first one.
so you were sort of bitten by the bug at that point and have gone on to be a serial entrepreneur over the years. What was your next step or your next business that you looked to?
Yeah, next business was a telecommunications business, and it was at the height of all this fiber, all the expansion on internet. It was during that whole period of times, cell lines, cell towers. This was huge growth back then, and we just happened to get in on the rise of everything that was happening there. And this was really cool because it was literally in the first 6 months, we had 6 million on the books. Second 6 months, we had another 12 million on the books. And how we got that was not because we were, there was something that was so much different about us. But when we went in, our sales pitch wasn't, we're better than everybody else, blah, blah, blah. Our sales pitch was, okay, you can't get your installations done on time, and you can't get a good quality installation. So what do you got to lose? We have a great reputation. If you talk to our customers, they will tell you that we do exactly those two things, on time and good quality. So how about, since you've got so much overage that you can't get installed right away, why don't you give us a couple jobs and let us show you what we can do? That's all it took. So we did the 2 jobs. They came back and said, oh my gosh, you came in actually under time and under budget, and your quality was excellent. Okay, we're going to give you 12 more jobs. We're going to give you 50 more jobs. We're going to give you 100 more jobs. So literally we grew, I think it was the first 9 months, we had 100 people on our staff. Wow. It was amazing, amazing growth and fun. It was really different from my first one where it was a retail store, and it's just totally different. So I was kind of glad I had now the experience with telecommunications as much as I had with the retail business.
So what year was this? You mentioned it was early on in that when everyone was doing cell and towers and all that.
Yeah, this was, let me think about that. It was 2000, somewhere in there, 2000, 2001, 2002. Okay. It was in that area.
Did you still have your other business, or had you sold that first business and started this?
No, I had actually sold the retail store, and the retail store was in Minneapolis. Let me kind of explain that whole thing. I was 26 years old at the time, by the way, when I started it. So after being there for 3 years, and it was June. It was, I forget what the year was, but it was June, and we had snow in June. I mean, literally, we had not a whole lot of it, but we had snow in June, and it was still cold. And at that point, I said, that's it. I'm out of here.
Right.
So it wasn't that and I have to say, I've learned also another lesson. It's a good thing I listened to my inner self telling me, hire someone to run this store, because dealing with the retail customer is not really in me, because every time a customer would come in and say, I just bought this blouse last week and now it's on sale. So I'd like to either return this one and buy one that's on sale, or you can just credit me the difference between the sale price and what I paid for it. Well, here I am, a business trying to, grow and whatever. And I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. And so my store manager always came over and rescued me in those moments. So there was the thing I liked about the retail business. I love growing it. And literally, I for some reason, I even knew where to go get money. I got an SBA loan, no problem. I knew where to buy the goods. I hired, like I said, I stole somebody from a big department store. So I was just kind of on a roll, again, not really knowing what the heck I was doing. This is the first venture. I was going to
ask that, because at 26, did you, and at that time, it wasn't like you hopped on, well, maybe you did, I want to presume, hopped online, do some research, see you should get a loan and that kind of thing. Were you just figuring it out along the way?
Yeah. I had a good lawyer. I had a good CPA. I would say they're probably the two that helped me. the most in getting this business off the ground and being successful. So I have to kind of attribute it to them. But really, I really did a lot of it. Just I'm not really sure how I knew how to do it. I just did. So in the second business, the telecommunication business, I actually started it with two other people. Mm-hmm. So, but in every business that you start, there are lessons learned. And in this particular business, I learned that you should pick your partners very wisely. Mm. So, everybody talks about, I should go into business with my best friend, or I should go into business with my family member. That's all good and well, but sometimes that can be a little tricky. Now, this particular partner I had two partners. One of them just happened to be really not the right partner. So again, with every business, you learn something. I mean, you learn how to maneuver around it. But if to be the most successful you can be, you always want to make sure that everything is as correct as it can be. So again, I learned going into this venture now, I picked my partner very wisely, and interesting enough, my partner now is a woman, and my last partner was a man. This is a woman, and she's an alpha female, just like me. So we have very dominant views. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I learned from my last venture going into this one is I learned how to pick a partner. So how we met is we met in business. We met out networking at some event. And then all of a sudden I ran into her at a nonprofit. And I was the chairman of the board and she was the treasurer of this board. And we worked so well together. The cool thing is I'm more of a visionary, sales, marketing, strategy. She's more back office, finance, processes, operations. So the two of us melded really well together. So, and then I hired her to be my COO and opened up a location in Washington, D.C., which she did. And then, a couple years later, I asked her if she wanted to buy the company with me. So, but I did my due diligence on her. A lot of people just automatically, everybody has a great idea, and over a glass of wine or, just getting together, they're like, wow, we can really do this. I'm passionate about it. We'll make a great team, blah, blah, blah. But my word of advice on this is try them out first. I mean, work with them somewhere in business before you choose them, because my company today works with 80% of our clients are privately owned, family owned. And we see so many problems, especially not so much with the family owned as we do with the partnerships, but there'd be two partners who started off great and then ended up literally hating each other.
Right.
So again, my advice to entrepreneurs, it's great to have a partner. I love having a partner, but choose them wisely.
Yes, that's great advice. And so many people are almost, because of as you mentioned, afraid of getting a partner, which it can work out. It's possible, as you and your partner prove. But to your point, it's almost like dating. Some people, I've heard them say that about investors and partners. Like you have to date the person first and see how things go. I think it's a brilliant idea to figure out a way to work together before jumping fully into the business. That just gives you an idea of especially how the person handles stress and all those kinds of things, and seeing what the other person is really good at and what you're good at so that you complement each other. You're not both doing the same thing. Exactly. And it is like dating. I mean, you really got to get to know that person before you jump. I mean, this can be a very costly mistake. Sure, marriage can be a very, that's a terrible thing to happen as well. But this is just as bad as to have a partner that you're working with every day in a business that you end up literally hating to see every day. Right. So tell us, going back for a second to the telecommunications company with your partners there, how did you end up resolving that issue? Did you sell the company, or what did you do with the telecommunications company, especially because, as you mentioned, one of the partners, or it just didn't work out the way you thought? Yeah, I actually ended up leaving. It was a very, very, very
very stressful time. So I did not stick around for the end, and I say the end because I could say about 2.5 years, he literally drove it into the ground. And here was the issue. Cash is king in any business, and he loved to spend money. So as much as we made, which we made a lot of money, he spent it as quickly as we made it.
On the business or other things?
He was very passionate about the business, so it was all about the business. But there's a way to wisely spend money. So, and then there's a way not to wisely spend money. So, he just spent money very frivolously on a lot of things that we didn't need or didn't need right that second, but he bought anyway. He just spent a lot of money, and so my other partner and I we were just beside ourselves. Plus, we had gotten venture capital money, and obviously they didn't like the fact that he was spending all this money. So, and they looked at us as getting him under control. Well, he was not a person to really get under control. He was pretty independent and pretty wild on his own. So there's no other way that we could handle that. And I didn't want to end up, having the board or whatever coming after me for what he does. So I just left. I just turned in my shares and got out of there.
Wow. Well, now, was that difficult to do because the business, one, because you built it together, but also because it was being so successful at that time, as you said, putting millions on the book and getting more clients and growing?
No, actually, it was great because at least I left my reputation intact because I didn't go under with the ship. So while I was still there, it was still doing well. When I left, it started to tank, and it wasn't that quickly afterwards. But again, after about 2.5 years, it was gone.
Yeah, that's pretty quick.
Yeah,
I'm like that.
I'm surprised actually it lasted that long.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, that's pretty quick. Okay. So then when you moved on, was the next business Cerius Executives?
It was.
With your partner?
Yep.
Excellent. Yep. So tell us about what the company offers and, well, first of all, how you decided to go in that direction and what the company offers your clients.
Like I said earlier, look around. There's always a void. There's always something that somebody else isn't already doing or doing it right or doing it a different way. So just keep your eyes open. And in this particular case, I actually didn't go with my partner right away. This firm was actually started by 7 entrepreneurs. So we were all executives and we were all doing consulting at the time. And so we just decided to pool all of our resources together and start a company. So we started off actually as Cerius Consulting. After a couple of years of doing that, I was like, no, this model I don't like this model at all. So I went back to look at some other models and what other people were doing around the world. And I ran across this interim executive management model. And it was big in Europe. I mean, they've been doing it, 65 years or so. So I thought, let's bring that model over here. So we did.
And tell us what the interim executive model is.
So that's how we started it. And interim executive model is we hire out executives on a part-time and interim basis. So it could be 5 days a week for 6 months. It could be 2 days a week for 12 months. It could be a month at 1 day a week. So it just varies. It depends on what the client's needs are. We're in all functional areas, so we do sales, marketing, IT. In fact, one of our big ones is we hire out interim CEOs. That's about 20% of our business today. So it's interesting. More and more people are getting familiar with this model, and they really, really like it. And it's not just, but by the way, most people think, I just lost my CFO, so I'll have Cerius come in and place an interim CFO for a couple months until I find a permanent person. Well, that's one way we can help a company. But most of our clients hire us to come in and actually do projects. So say you've got a great executive team and man, they are just really on top of things, but you're missing one area of expertise. Could be acquisitions. Well, you don't want to hire somebody permanently for that. You just want an expert to come in and help you with that, because you're not going to do acquisitions every year. So you hire somebody to come in and you help with that. And then once the acquisition's made and you've integrated into your company, they go away. There's no long-term payoff or benefits or anything. So it's an advantage. And I have to tell you, as an entrepreneur, oh my gosh, as I was growing companies, if I could have had especially a part-time CFO instead of a full-time CFO, that would have been so much better, because how many small companies really need a full-time controller or CFO? They don't. Mm-hmm. They just need somebody who's going to take care of all of their finances, their accounting, their billing, and then they need somebody that really can help them with the strategy of moving the company forward and growing. But that's not a full-time person. Same thing with a marketing person. Maybe you need some kind of expertise in social media or some other area in marketing. Just bring somebody in on a part-time basis or just on an interim basis. A lot cheaper. You get a better quality person, because now you can afford that higher quality person because you're only having them in there on a part-time basis.
Right. Now, is this model, or I should say, are most of your clients corporations that bring in people for a certain amount of time, or are you finding you work more with small businesses of a certain size that may bring in, as you said, an interim CFO or something like that? What are you seeing, just the market overall? How are things, what direction are people moving in?
Well, we do a lot of marketing, and we only target the small to mid-size. We love the small to mid-size companies. They're just fun to work with. We can make a big impact. We can help them grow. It could be a company that's just starting out and they have funding, but they need to know what the next steps are and a little bit of help and strategy. So we help them there. Or it could be a mid-sized company, family-owned, privately owned company that is stagnating in their business, and they need somebody to come in and help them get past that.
So small is how many, 10 or less, and mid is 100 or less?
Well, we work with anyone that's like one. Mm-hmm. Maybe they've just started up and they've just been funded, so it can be one, all the way up to I say a typical is 1 to 500 people. 500.
Okay. Yep. Very interesting. Now it's not an independent executive, it's called an interim executive. Is that what you call, or both, or is it interchangeable?
Well, we call them both. There's a little bit of a difference between the two, but you can use each one interchangeable.
So what's an independent executive then? I believe I saw that on your website.
When we first started off, we said it was the same thing as an interim executive. But it really isn't. An independent executive is somebody with a portfolio career. And what I mean by that is they do some interim work, they do some consulting, they do some coaching, mentoring, they may teach. And then from time to time, they go back and work for corporate America. Mm. So literally, it's not just, okay, I got to work for the next 30 years in corporate America, going from one job to the next. It's, okay, so I've worked for this corporation for 8 years, and now I'm going to take a look at, doing some interim executive work, getting some expertise in maybe some other areas, and going back to school and expanding my knowledge base. And then they go back to corporate America again, get another job, and then they come off of that and they do some consulting, or maybe they also on the side do some teaching at one of the universities. So this is an executive that has total control over his career, and it could be in many different areas, because a lot of people used to think that anybody that was an interim executive or independent executive was a person that couldn't find a job. Mm-hmm. That's not true anymore. These people are your top of the top quality out there, and they have total control over what their career is going to look like.
Now, in your book, How I Fired My Boss and Made More Money, you sort of outline for independent executives how they can get more visibility and attract more clients, right?
Right.
Now, if you could give us one insider tip for this, say we're considering being an independent executive or want to know more about it, what would be one tip that you'd want to share with us?
Yeah. and I'm going to use this word. I'm going to explain what the word is. Network, network, network. Now, that doesn't mean go to an event and network. Doesn't mean going to a convention and networking. What this means is be as visible everywhere you can, whether that's LinkedIn, whether that's Facebook's, whether that's Twitter, whether it's, out at an event, whether it's a speaking engagement. Be as visible as you possibly can. And, in today's world, it's pretty easy because you've got so many venues where you can, put up your thoughts, and become a thought leader. So, if you like to write, one story can be used, 20 different times on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, because you can break down what you just wrote about and write subsets of what you wrote. So it's amazing. One piece of content can be used over and over. So I'll tell you a story of a very successful executive. Mm-hmm. And so here's how she stayed visible. And she used LinkedIn. That was her majority. She did do a little bit of writing, but every week she reached out to 5 new people. And she, tried to connect with them. Whether she got that referral from one of her people that she already knew, or whether it was somebody that was second or third from her on LinkedIn. But anyway, she would get 5 new people every week. At the same time, she would put something on LinkedIn to reach out to specific people. And I don't mean just, she didn't just share content. She was writing to a particular person, a particular company, particular CEO, particular board member with a article that she just read, and she wanted to share it with him because she thought it was of interest to him or her. Mm. She would reach out and say, "Hey, there's an event coming up. You want to go with me? It's at the whatever place in Los Angeles, and it's Tuesday night. Do you want to come with me?" Literally, that's how she stayed in touch. So people always remembered her, and she was an interim CFO. And she also went into positions as the CEO. But literally, she would get so many leads coming in from these people, either referrals of people that they knew that needed her services, or they needed her services. So it's really interesting that she continuously did this. And she had a sheet, actually, I think it was Excel spreadsheet, but literally she filled out who she touched each week and then made sure that every 3 months, she tried to touch all of them. Now, obviously, as her network grew, maybe it would go to 4 months, but she was always staying in touch with her connections because, top of mind is everything.
That is so good. And talk about taking networking to the next level and being much more strategic about it. And some people might listen and think, oh, that's too much. I'm not going to do all that. But I do that with spreadsheets for reaching out to potential sponsors and, of course, with guests and just keeping it organized and it's a good way, too, I think, of holding yourself accountable for that outreach and that connection.
Well, congratulations. I don't know too many people that do that. So if you're doing it, awesome.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not. I'm going to take that advice about the LinkedIn. I haven't done that, but just keeping things organized to stay on top of, your outreach and follow up and all of those kinds of things. But thank you. I'll take that. Congratulations. No, that's excellent. That's a great story. And then too, I think it's an example of not being afraid to reach out to people that you don't know personally, but finding something that is a connection with them. As you mentioned, she's sharing maybe an article they might be interested in or an event and that kind of thing.
Right. And people in your industry, it's really interesting. I've reached out to people in my industry and said, hey, I've read some of your articles. You're really a thought leader. And, occasionally I get together with a bunch of these thought leaders. And I thought maybe you'd like to connect so that next time we have one of these meetings that we can all get together. And they accept that connection immediately.
Mm-hmm. So LinkedIn, you find it with most of your executives and your talent pool, do you find that's been the most successful platform for the most part?
Not really. I mean, I use, sorry, I'm losing my voice this morning.
It's okay.
I use it personally, and obviously I get lots of referrals from people on it, but my company as a whole, we are big into digital marketing. And what I mean by that is, we use every single marketing path that we possibly can. So it can be Google AdWords, it can be SEO, it can be some kind of event that we have coming up. It can be LinkedIn, it can be Facebook. We have lots of content. We put out content at least 3-4 times a week, new content. So we're always pushing things out of value to people, and we're putting it out through digital marketing. Now, the interesting thing about digital marketing today is digital marketing changes I can't say daily, but it changes on a weekly basis. And what I mean by that is your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Twitter, your Google, they're always changing their analytics. Mm-hmm. So what worked today isn't going to work tomorrow, or isn't going to work next week. So you always have to be on top of how things are going and be able to tweak them to be successful. So as a company, we that's our biggest source of leads, and I can't say we're masters at it, but we're really good at it. So that's how we get most of our business coming in.
So do you have a team that works with you, or someone on your team, I should say, that produces the content for you? Because 3 a week that's a good amount of content.
Well, interesting enough, both Kristen and I do some of the content. She more so than I, because I just don't have as much time. But we actually have somebody that writes that for us, or we give them an idea.
Right.
And I got to tell you, there's tons of great writers out there. I mean, in fact, my writer, when I don't have time, I just send them an article. I send them my research, because I've always done some research on the back end, and I send that over to this person, and literally she comes back with, and it's an article that sounds just like me, because she's now used to me. But you can get a great writer for anywhere from $75 up to $200 per article, and that's pretty inexpensive today.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting. I've been getting more people asking me about that ghostwriting or creating content and that kind of thing. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs, or people, as you said, who are thought leaders or thinking about wanting to move in that direction, are looking at ways to produce more content more consistently. Right. And it's an easy way to do it. And again, you find a writer that you really like, and you're doing it consistently, you can get a really good price from them. They get to know how to sound like you, and you've got all the content you could use. Plus, again, remember, one piece of content can feed 20 pieces into all the rest of your social media that you're doing. Right. You can repurpose it. So now, how long have you had Cerius Executives? We're about 12 and a half years now. Oh, wow. And I actually can't believe it's that long, because this is the longest actually I've ever been in one business, whether it was my own business or whether it was corporate America. This is the longest I've been with a business. But I have to admit, it's kind of fun, because I get to surround myself with people that are a whole lot smarter than I am. I mean, we have over 8,500 executives that we place around the country, as well as in Canada, every year. So, I mean, whenever I need advice, I just hire one of them. Wow. Now, how many people are actually in your company with you? And Kristen McAllister is your partner, right? Your business partner? Yes, okay. With Kristen. So in the company, we only have, I'm trying to think, we've added some people. So we have about 10 to 12 people, and some are part-time, some are full-time. We are big on our own model. I don't need somebody on staff to be my CMO, my chief marketing officer. I don't need somebody full-time on staff to be my chief technology officer. So both of those positions are part-time. And then the rest of it, we outsource. We outsource our developers. We outsource our marketing team. So we have agencies and PR firms and stuff that we work with. So same thing with our payroll, billing.
we're big on outsourcing. Plus, everything on our back end is automated, which is really cool. Kristen's done a fantastic job of automating everything. So literally any new business that comes in, within 2 days, we can have an interim placed at a company. I mean, we can do things that fast today.
2 days is amazing.
So my goal with this company was to keep it as small as possible and to use technology as much as possible. Now, in this business, you can't have everything automated because you're touching real human beings. Mm-hmm. When a CEO or a board of directors comes to us and they say they need a chief operating officer or a chief human resource officer, they want to be able to talk to a person. So I have a lot of people in account management, sales, and account management.
So now how do you find the executives that you work with? Are there any non-traditional means that and of course you're not going to give away anything proprietary that you guys do, but are there some things you can share with us for how you find the executives, or do they usually come to you?
We are very well known in the U.S., also a little bit outside the U.S., but the executives that have work through us on our clients, they really like how we work with them. We consider them clients. So the executives are not just our product, they are our clients, just like companies are our clients. They like that. We treat them well. We get them paid very quickly. If they've got particular needs, we take care of it. Literally, we cater to them. So they've gone out and they have started to refer people to us. So in today's world, we don't have to recruit at all. Not that we ever really had to do a lot of recruiting, but the last 3 years, literally, we've just depended on our executives and our clients to refer A players to us. And when you get A players, they're not going to refer a C player to you. They're only going to refer A players.
Right.
So we get about 200 applications every month, of which maybe we take 20. We really are looking for that cream of the crop, because every time we place an executive, our reputation's on the line as much as theirs is. So we have to make sure that we put the best people out.
And with clients, is it the same thing? Because of your reputation, you all have a great list of clients that constantly come to you. And I would imagine repeat customers. If they need people for a certain amount of time, then they don't, then they do again.
Yeah. A lot of our clients come back for more than one. Sometimes they have two in there at the same time. Sometimes they finish up, maybe finance, and now they need help in operations, or they need help in sales. So that happens a lot. So we get a lot of business from our existing clients. Also, we get a lot of business from our existing clients referring new clients to us. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's interesting because I don't have a regular sales force that goes out and gets clients. Mm-hmm. They literally just they take care of all the leads that come in. We get so many leads coming in, they can barely handle that sometimes. And this is all from referrals, from digital marketing. So we're a very unconventional part-time staffing type firm, because most of the competitors that I have in this space, they've all got a sales force out literally knocking on doors trying to get business.
Wow, it's a good problem to have, Pam. More people than you need.
I always hope that we can keep it up.
Right. So what do you love most about your company now, Cerius Executives? Like we mentioned earlier, you've had, several companies and been through different experiences and a lot of lessons learned. But what do you love most about what you're doing now, other than it being successful, obviously?
I like the people. I really, when I made the statement earlier about I love being surrounded by people who are a lot smarter than I am, I learn something new every day. And one of my favorite parts of this business is talking to clients. I can totally relate to their issues. In fact, all the salespeople that I hire also have owned their own companies. So when they're talking to a client, they understand the issues that particular client's having at that time. It could be, sales is bad. Could be, cash flow's bad. Could be they need a line of credit. It could be all sorts of things. and they are all of our people within our company, that work for Cerius, or our executives. They really can help our clients. So this is a great atmosphere for learning, and I'm just like a sponge when it comes to learning. So I'm out talking to clients, out talking to executives. Again, I learn something new every day.
What would you say entrepreneurship has taught you about yourself as a woman?
This is kind of sexist, but so it's taught me that, and I never actually worried about this growing up, but women can be just as successful at business as men. There's always been, I always hear about this glass ceiling. Well, I've been in industries, and for heaven's sake, I was in the security business for 8 years. And, I didn't think about whether, my position was made for a man or a woman. I was just in it. I was one of the few women in it, but I just didn't really think about it. But now that I'm dealing with a lot of boards, and I have been on private boards, it's really interesting to see the dynamics of how a woman can contribute to a board of directors, or even to a company, to the executive team. It just brings a different perspective. They have different strengths. And not to say that one strength is more successful than the other. I think the combination of strengths between men and women really can help a company today. So I think you really need to get that diversity, whether it's on your executive team, whether it's in your company period, or whether it's on your board of directors.
Mm-hmm. But what would you say for you? Is there anything that you've noticed about yourself or your growth because having run so many companies, have you noticed anything about yourself during that time that maybe earlier on you didn't know?
Well, one thing that stands out, that I've learned is, as an entrepreneur, and I know everybody who's listening can relate to this, you're workaholics. Mm-hmm. You're always working. And sometimes your family and your friends hate that. They just think you're ignoring them and you don't have time for them. So you really need to make time for family and friends. And I'm a big proponent of building lists of things I need to do. Well, now friends and family are on that list. Now, some say that sounds a little bit cold, but it's not. It's just that those times with family and friends are very important to me. Just like my appointment with blank company is very important to me. So putting it on my schedule makes me not miss it, because I don't know about other entrepreneurs, but I can think of situations where literally I can make all sorts of excuses why I couldn't, go to the zoo with my family, or I couldn't, go out to dinner, or I was going to be late for a luncheon meeting. I can think of all sorts of excuses for that I used to have. And I would only piss off my family members and friends, and that wasn't a good thing. Mm-hmm. So I've learned that if I have an appointment with them, I will make it, and I will make it on time. And it'll be just as important to me as if it was a business meeting.
I love it. That's powerful. Thank you for sharing that with us. And it's so true. I think, as you said, family and friends can either be disappointed or feel hurt or just not understand how you're giving so much time to this other thing. And it seems like you're ignoring them. But as you said, you're just a workaholic. You really want the business to work, and it's hard to fit it all in unless you make time for it. So I think it's smart and advisable to put things on the schedule. So many of us live by our schedules now. I forget birthdays and everything. With phones, it makes us forget everything.
Yes.
How could you forget? So I don't know, birthdays, phone numbers. I have to put it in the phone. It's too much to try to keep in the mind. So I totally understand.
Me too.
Right.
I can relate.
Yes. I always say, please don't judge my love for you on whether I remember your birthday. If I don't get an alarm, I'm going to forget my own birthday.
I can totally relate to that.
I get it. So in closing, Pam, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
Ooh. So interesting. One person. So let me go back to my dad, only because, he was, I can't say he was very disciplinary. He was a disciplinarian, but he wasn't too harsh. But he really taught me some great lessons and a good business head. So I can't thank him enough for sending me in the right direction. Again, I didn't know what entrepreneurship was back then, but I think he was the one that got me started.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, tell us how we can support you. Tell everyone the website and social media, of course. I'll have links to everything, but just so people can hear it.
Okay, so our website is CeriusExecutives.com. And interesting, the Cerius, now, and by the way, if that's not easy to remember, you can always go to getCerius.com. Now, you still have to know how to spell serious. It's not SERIOUS. It's CERIUS. CERIUS. So actually, you can just put get Cerius, CERIUS.com, and you will go right to our site. Or you can, we have a gift for everybody. There's all sorts of tips that companies have asked us about, how can I do this, or how can I do this, or do other things successfully? So we've taken all the information from our executives who have had great successes, and we've put together this tip sheet, whether it's how to find the right partner, how to increase your sales, how to have better operations. We have all of this information at this site. So if you go to getCerius.com/support is sexy.
Yay.
So again, that is, yeah. So it's getCerius.com/support is sexy. You will get all of these free tips and gifts. It's just, I got to tell you, it's just a world of information. And if you need any additional help or whatever it is that you need, there's a number there that you can also call.
Excellent. Thank you. We love gifts. That's fantastic. And I'm going to cheat before everyone hears this. I'm going to go look at it now so I can get mine. But I want everyone to make sure you go to, getCerius, CERIUS.com/support is sexy for the free gift.
Correct.
Excellent.
Yep.
And I will make sure I have a link to it. Pam, thank you so much. There's so many other questions. I want to be conscious of your time, though. I feel like I could talk to you for another hour or so, but thank you so much for all that you shared and just your wisdom and taking the time to chat with us.
Well, it was a pleasure being on with you today. And if there's any time that you're in California, come visit.
Excellent. What part of California are you in?
I'm in Southern California. Hey, you got to be where the heat is.
That's right. You wanted to get away from that cold for good. I hear you.
Exactly.
That's excellent. Now, before you go, what's a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything?
Yes, I have one parting word. And if you think you're alone as an entrepreneur, that you're having issues that, oh my gosh, I'm the only one out there that's having these issues, trust me on this. You are not. There are a whole ton of other people having exactly the same type of issues that you are. So find the right advisors, find the right people you can surround yourself with, because I guarantee you there are answers that can make your problems sound small after all.
Excellent. Pam Wasley, thank you so much. Hold on just a moment. All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Pam Wasley. For more about her, about Cerius Executives, about what they do, about Interim Executives, if you're interested in that, and to find out about the free gift, go to supportissexypodcast.com and just search Pam, Pam, in the search box. Her show notes page will pop up. You'll see Pam Wasley there, and you'll be able to get all of the links, resources, ways to get her book, ways to get the gift, and ways to get in touch with them. supportissexypodcast.com and just search Pam and look for Pam Wasley. As always, I appreciate you being here. As I always say, it would not be the same without you. What I want you to make sure you do is subscribe to the podcast. Don't miss a thing. I heard the newest update for some phones have been messing up people's podcasts, but make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss a thing. I want to be here for you 5 days a week, giving you the best information, the best interviews with women entrepreneurs all around the world. So please make sure that you subscribe. And in order to help me take Support is Sexy global, I already interview women from around the world here from my home studio, but now I'm taking the show on the road and around the world. And I talk about this in episode 342 called Daydreams Do Come True. And I'm sharing about my remote year where I'm part of a program where I get to travel the world. And through this journey, 12 countries in 12 months, my idea is to interview women entrepreneurs in those countries. So make sure you go back to listen to episode 342 so you can hear how that all happened and be inspired by the idea that daydreams do come true. But if you'd like to support me on this journey, please go to gofundme.com/Elayne Fluker so you can learn more about it, hear more about it, see a video from me, hear what the plan is and why I'm so excited about this idea of taking Support is Sexy Global Edition. That's what I like to call it. Support is Sexy Global Edition. I would love your help, and it's not even about me. It is really about my passion for sharing the stories of women entrepreneurs around the world, and what a great way to do so by being there in these countries with these women and really showing their journeys and their stories. So you can check that out, gofundme.com/Elayne Fluker. I would love to hear from you, whether you contribute or if you share it. Thank you so much either way. All right. So again, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And until next time, you know what to do. Go out there and create something sexy, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.